You're welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore experience that shape resilience, emotional hit, and personal transformation. Today we are joined by Natalie Bedard, NatNat, emotional healing and nervous system guide, founder of Leads Oneself, and host of our Lift Oneself podcast. NatNat teach us how to release our protective pattern, regulate our emotional body, and truly come home to ourselves. It's really a pleasure having you on the show, Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to this conversation and diving deep with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So Nance, what challenge shaped you into who you are today?
Oh boy. I think, life experiences and being able to make mistakes, to explore different ways and a lot of grief. I've gone through a lot of different losses with death. And so with each person passing, that grief allows you to appreciate life even more and also release, more of, if you're willing, the narrative that you think you have control and allowing yourself to really be open to seeing what is a grander picture. And then, what brought me here right now with Lift Oneself is the lesions in my brain that I had 11 years ago, where I almost died. So that brought me really into understanding more of the nervous system, understanding emotional health, understanding what stress can do,
Yeah.
what our thoughts can do, and the identity that we create around ourselves in a way to try to protect ourselves, yet we don't even realize that sometimes those identities are causing a lot of pain and harm towards ourselves.
Wow. It's a whole lot of work there, and it's really a whole lot. I'm just imagining what it means to have gone through what you've gone through being a child, especially for the emotional part of it. That was really amazing. So can you explain what emotional sobriety is and why is it important in today's world?
So, what emotional sobriety is not is being zen and calm and being at peace and nothing impacts you and you don't feel. Emotional sobriety is being able to feel your emotions and not be hijacked by them. To be able to be in your humanity and allow yourself to explore what the signaling, because what emotions are is information that comes up.
Yeah.
So it's like being able to feel those informations, being able to identify it's been there and listen to what the information is, yet also recognize that it's not fact. A lot of people think that they are their emotions. Like many people will say, I'm angry or I'm sad, rather than putting in the feeling. And just because you're having a feeling does not mean that it's supposed to take your direction. It's data, it's information. Yet many of us don't know how to be with the intensity that we're feeling inside. So the sobriety allows you to be with the feeling without having to be reactive with it, that you can coexist with it without it hijacking your behavior. And when it is intense, that you can be intentional with the actions you're taking to release all of that pressure and that feeling and energy. Because, anger, I just released a podcast yesterday about befriending anger, that it's a bodyguard to your more tender and sensitive places. We all know when anger comes in, it's a very mighty force.
Yeah.
It's a mighty protector. It's a mighty bodyguard. Yet many of us have not been taught how to channel it, how to befriend it, how to use it to our advantage. So, like, I just saw a video of Coco, the tennis player, and she lost in the Australian Open, and she's outside in an enclosed area and she's banging her tennis racket. And everybody's criticizing that, oh my gosh, what kind of role model is that? And it's like, no, she did exactly what she should do in a contained area. She smashed her tennis racket with feeling the frustration. You build yourself up to get somewhere and you lost, and you're supposed to just smile and be like, hey. It's like, no, you're going to use it in a contained area to get that energy out, smash it out. She can replace the tennis racket. It wasn't somebody's face, it was a tennis racket. She's getting out, and it was in a private, enclosed area. But because she's a famous person, everybody's watching her every move. Yet, this is a good teaching moment. she did exactly what is healthy in a way to get it out of her body so that she's not suppressing and keeping it inside. So emotional sobriety is being able to feel those emotions and being able to be intentional with what you're going to do with the energy.
Wow, amazing. Being able to feel everything you get to feel, but being intentional in how you actually more like make do of it. That was really amazing. And especially when you even try to define hate to be that, yeah, hate is an energy that's being needed every now and then. It's just that the people have created narrative around it. Yeah, I think we're still going to
Yeah.
dive at that part though. So how do trauma and nervous system influence the way we show up in our daily life?
Well, trauma is this, it created a space away from self, and self is connected to source. So a lot of us were moved out of self and we're looking on the outside of us for safety. And so our nervous system is here to house our body, and it has one function: don't die. So it starts to perceive a lot of things as threats because the trauma created a space that, oh, you can't go into your vulnerability. So once you start to recognize, oh, this trauma created this kind of space within myself that I'm not able to be my authentic self. I'm not able to feel my own emotions. I'm putting on these masks to be able to feel safe in society. I'm looking for validation in the actions that I do, in the things that I achieve, to feel a sense of safety. Yet what I guide people in is creating that safety within themselves, not in what they're doing, it's in their being. So it's bringing them back and understanding what their biology has created as protective mechanisms and defense mechanisms, and really understanding trauma is there. It's a pain in the ass at times. However, it was a way to protect you from what the incident was. Whatever, it could have been emotional, psychological, physical, yet there was an intense imprint of emotions and mostly fear that created this separation that I cannot be in that vulnerability. So yeah, it's really having a better understanding of what your nervous system has created as a script to protect yourself, and that you can recreate a new narrative and a new imprint for yourself.
Wow, nervous system is more like acting like a script. In a way, we are actually more like people for us. I think your definition of trauma and it just makes me realize it in a very, very new way, being that I never saw it from this particular end. And that actually explains a whole lot of things on why a whole lot of things happen when trauma actually comes into be. Yeah, trauma is a way out of self, being that we are looking for external validation. We are not looking at any value we get to have again. Being that, yeah, there are some parts of you don't just want to visit, being that it's painful and it's hurtful and everything. And yeah, way out of self. That was really amazing. So what does coming home to yourself look like in practical everyday terms?
Many of us live from the neck up. We're in our heads. We're not in our bodies. And in our bodies, that's where your intuition is. That's where that
Yeah.
gut feeling is. That's where discernment is. And it's being able to be in your body and feeling the feelings, yet also recognizing not all feelings are going to guide you in the right way. What is the intuition? What is the discernment? How do you rewire your nervous system to not feel like everything is an attack, that everything needs to be defended, that everything that you need to be in fear of, that you be able to calm that nervous system so that it's not always a barking dog all the time, thinking it needs to attack everything, that it can be in rest and discern and listen to what new possibilities are. So coming home to yourself really allows the activation of curiosity. Many of us got cut off from curiosity at a young age. And so to be able to be in growth and in possibility, you require curiosity. Curiosity brings you into the unknown and uncertainty. Yet if you're activated with a lot of fear, you want to control and predict what's always around you.
Yeah.
Yet if you can predict everything that's around you, you're not growing, you're not changing.
Yeah, amazing. Especially more like when you make reference of coming home to yourself. That simply means, and another signal someone actually is going through trauma might not be curious about anything. They might not be more like outgoing. They might have some limitation and they're actually more like what they do. That could actually be a thing too, right? Because it's, yeah, this is really, really lovely. So many people actually fear feeling their emotions fully. How can process difficulties emotion without falling apart?
Well, You see, everybody wants a quick fix that all of a sudden I feel it and it's all gone. And that's
Yeah.
not how the biology works. And so it's, exposing yourself little by little and being honest. I think the biggest difficulty, one, you need to be willing. Because once you have willingness, then your body will surrender the fight that goes on and the visceral feelings you have in the conflict. So once you have the willingness that I'm going to engage with this, I'm going to not abandon myself and I'm going to stay with whatever's here, and also allow yourself to have exposure. Yet if it's too much, if it's going too over your capacity, being able to dial it down and allow yourself to find the tools to be like, okay, I could only do so much here, and then I had to bring it back down, and then expose yourself more and more, because the more that your body releases it, the more that you won't have the triggers that will be so activated. Say, for instance, you have a lot of road rage and you're very impatient and somebody cuts you off, you like freak out all the time. Yet, if you start engaging of being curious, why am I so impatient? Why do I like, what is causing all this? And you engage with feeling like the activation. It might be your stomach is tightening or your throat or there's heat or you feel flush. Engaging with what those body sensations are and being curious of what's behind you, what's underneath you that's activating this. And a lot of time it's fear, and feeling like you're being controlled or disrespected or whatever there is, that narration that's coming up, yet engaging with it a little, so that once you start engaging, those defense mechanisms come down, and then the part that was being protected by those are like, oh, you see me, I can speak. And once you see that and your light of awareness sees that sensitivity, that vulnerability, all of a sudden you're driving, and what would have set you off before isn't setting you off anymore, because you're willing to engage with the physical aspects of your body and listen to what those signals are saying. Listening doesn't mean that you agree. Listening
Mhm.
doesn't mean you're going to take direction of, like, my mind sometimes says go punch somebody in the throat because they did something. It doesn't mean that, oh, I feel like. You don't go off of feeling, because feelings can get you into a lot of issues. It's the discernment. It's also being able to listen to your intuition and use fear as a powerful weapon. A lot of times people are saying not to fear, where your nervous system is a very powerful mechanism that is built on fear, yet you can use that fear. You don't have to be hijacked by it and imprisoned by it. And a lot of people do not even know how to trust themselves to engage with that, to rechange its direction and use it in a sense of quote unquote good, or for moral justice or for humanity. People think it's always passive and that peace and justice is always passive. And it's like, no, like, you have to be able to use your mechanisms in the right way and understand what fear really is. Yet I think fear has been given such a bad rap rather than understanding what its
Yeah.
function is.
Yeah. I think from what you just said and just listening to it, it just shows that a whole lot of what is being labeled when it comes to fear, when it comes to a whole lot of things, trauma and everything, I think it's the fact that some person does not know how will I say, a robust definition of this particular term. Because just seeing you express it in words and putting it into how the nervous system are playing into it and how every of those particular things come into me. Yeah, it just shows that yes, it's there's a whole lot of process that actually went on, and just knowing more like a bit of it is actually reassuring, knowing the fact that every emotions can actually be to our advantage. Yeah, amazing. The fact that you're just talking about. Yeah. Thank you. So you talk about raw healing. What does it mean to release protective pattern without bypassing the hard part?
Well, like I just gave that road rage example, or, grief is a big one that a lot of people want to bypass it. And what I notice, a lot of times people bypass the anger part in grief. They
Hmm.
just want to go into some of the spiritual bypassing. Everything happens for a reason. And when we say everything happens for a reason, it's just to calm the mind, because the mind needs reasoning. That's what its one
Hmm.
function is. And not everything you're going to make, like, not everything is a reason. Like, if you tell somebody that their 2-year-old died for a reason, they're probably going to attack you. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to hear that, but that's that mind, and it wants safety. So if we tell it, oh, everything happens for a reason, it kind of calms it down rather than seek and rather than feel the helplessness of not having control. And that anger part is protecting that vulnerable part. Yet if we don't allow ourselves to feel the anger, we're not able to get to underneath and the deeper roots of the vulnerability and the helplessness, and allow
Hmm.
ourselves to release that from the body, because the nervous system is trying to connect to another nervous system and that signal is no longer there. So when it's not being able to co-regulate and connect with that other nervous system, it goes through its own waves of emotions, and anger is one of those parts. So the raw healing is being able to be vulnerable and recognizing, just because you've identified a trigger and the intensity has released, new life events will come up, and all of a sudden that visitor will come back and knock on your door and be like, hey, remember me? And you're like, I thought I got rid of you. And it's like, no, it's going to come back up. This is your biology that has imprinted. So now that when it comes, you understand the tools to use and to ride the tsunami and the waves of what goes on in the chemical releases and in the feelings, the belief systems that get activated, and the sense of trying to find safety in control and being able to release those protective patterns, to release those defense mechanisms, and be in a surrender of, okay, what is reality as is, not what I'm trying to create in my mind. And a lot of us go into a lot of suffering. Like right now, I'm in Canada and it's minus 21 outside. There's ice on my window. I logically don't want to be here. I want to be in the sun and the warmth. Yet if I keep arguing with the reality of the as is of the weather, I'll suffer. And a lot of people suffer that way and stay stuck in complaining rather than, okay, this is here. How do I adapt? How do I find the ways to make sure that I support my mental state? That I recognize, because things aren't going my way, then I'm bringing down my energy. How can I continue to keep that cup full, and that I am being appreciative of what's here right now, even though it's not going the way that I would like? And that's a difficult space to always be in, and be self-aware and be awake to what you're creating in your mind and thoughts of what the reality is, and trying to change the as is of reality. So raw healing allows you to integrate that spiritual aspect of, being in source and everlasting, but also integrating the human part and not bypassing that human part with using spirituality, and not using mindset to bypass the spiritual part, actually meshing them both together so that there's an integration and there's a fusion. Because I see where it's either all spiritual or it's
Yeah.
all mindset. And it's like, well, where is the blending of both?
Balance. Yeah.
Because that's what we're living in. We're here to live in a human experience. We're not here to live in a spiritual bypassing. It's like, you're seeing people die and it's like, oh, well, God will take care of it. It's like, we were here to live in a human, and how can we coexist together? How can we be innovative? How can we adapt to different things? How can we work together? It doesn't mean that we have to agree, and it doesn't mean that we all have to do the same thing. It's how can we coexist with the differences, with the cultures, and how can we build bridges on all the Shilohs? Like, you're on an island, I'm on an island, but we can build bridges that we can visit each other. But we don't have to dominate to tell you, you have to be this way and I have to be that way. We can coexist in all of the differences and not feel threatened by it.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. This is really lovely. I think it's the fact that you just measured the balance between the mind and, yeah, yes, it's more like accepting more like what it is, let's say, or what the reality is, and being able to kind of being vulnerable to know what is going on in terms of the emotion and everything. Yeah, pretty more like a balanced ground between the both of them, and living out peacefully rather than not acknowledging the fact why the reality is already showing a different thing. And yeah, this is really, really more like amazing. So how can someone support a loved one healing journey without taking over or minimizing their experience?
Well, that takes to be a skill. And listening is something that many of us don't know how to do, especially when somebody's in pain. We want to fix and correct it. And especially if they're feeling dense emotions that you don't know how to be with for yourself, you're going to want to shut it down for people. Because how many times do we hear if somebody is crying, don't cry, hush, 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 stop, 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 don't cry, don't cry, where it's like their body needs to release. And so, the thing about tears is that people don't realize, I know it's tagged to sadness, yet it's a multitude of things that you're expressing and releasing that possibly, like say with grief, you're going to let shed the tears, yet it has a train of years and decades of things that you just swallowed that are all just now finally being able to come to the surface. So that's why a lot of people will have a big breakdown. It's not just the incident, it's all the stuff that they swallowed and buried down deep that finally has an opening that we can let it all out. So supporting that loved one is being able to, be silent and listen and not try to correct and not try to fix what their experience is. It's being able to hold that space to validate what they're feeling, yet also ask them some questions of how can you support yourself? What do you need? Rather than telling somebody what they need, asking them, what is it that you need? And if they're saying some things that are way off, it's like, no, I don't think that's the one. Let's like, what else is there? What else is, that would bring them in wholeness with a W? And so it takes a lot of listening. It takes a lot of compassion. Sometimes you have to do this to remind yourself, like, don't talk, put your finger on your mouth or your hand over your mouth, just to remind yourself you're going to want to interrupt, you're going to want to impose what you think a person's experience is, rather than letting them go through the arc of their emotion. Witnessing pain is a skill. That's why many people, go to school for it and learn experience for it, because it's not an easy space to be in without being hijacked, wanting to help the other person and getting them out of what their state is, rather than helping them learn how to come out of their own state.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. I think they just speak volumes to, yeah, listening to someone going through pain, maybe talking about their stories or more like crying. It's really a whole lot and it's part of the healing processes. If not that you just make reference of it, the natural thing that will come to every one of us will be, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Owing to this conversation, it's already make me to rethinking that, actually that the conversation could be around, don't worry, you can cry, I'm here for you, I'm willing to listen, I'm willing to kind of it's amazing having this conversation. So Nat, looking back, how did facing life-threatening illness shape your approach to trauma, present, and personal growth?
It allowed me to be more in my vulnerability and sensitivity, and to allow there to be messiness and not be in the performative of trying to impress other people, to feel that I've had a wisdom since I was young, yet I was in the background. I didn't think that what I knew was wisdom. I thought, everybody knew this and
Yeah.
everybody understood it. But then when I would speak some truth, people were like, I don't want to hear that. You can't talk to people that. You can't identify that. So then I, muzzled myself and I silenced myself. And so now with the lesions, it opened me up of having a different relationship with death. Because being at that precipice allowed me to see all of the mind tricks that my mind created as beliefs of keeping myself imprisoned in the fear of death, where now I have a different relationship with death and I can walk through the veil. I can go beyond what the limitations were created for me. So those lesions allowed me to come back into the body, come back into relationship with self, and to build better trust within myself and safety within being confident of what my being is and not what my doing is.
Wow.
And really having a language of not just theorizing what the nervous system is, actually being in my own experience. So then being able to relate that and give practical tools to other people so they could shift their perception and see it from the inside out rather than from the outside in.
That was really amazing. So now, for my audience who want to listen on to you, reach out and either reach out to you to consult you or get any of your materials, how can they reach out and where's the best platform?
Lift Oneself. That's LIFTONESELF.com. So that's liftoneself.com. They can reach out. They'll find my podcast. They'll find my sessions. They'll find my emotional sobriety workshop that I have.
Yeah.
They'll find the raw healing. The raw healing isn't out yet. It's going to be coming out. And I'm presently working with an editor for my book that's called The Gift Wrapped in Sandpaper, which will be a memoir of what I experienced with the lesions and better understanding the nervous system and giving them practical tools. So I'm putting my energy in that book so that it can reach other people so that they can do the work within themselves.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Nat. So Nat, what will be your final words to those who are still going through grief, trauma, more like if there's one single actionable step they could start taking, that over time it could get better.
Remember to be kind to yourself. You matter.
Remember to be kind to yourself. Wow, amazing. Yeah, thank you, Nat. So thank you for sharing your wisdom, presence, and deeply human insights with us today. For listener, if you want to explore her work further, you can visit Lift Oneself to access our podcast resources and raw healing experience. This has been the Making of Me podcast. A reminder that true healing begins when we return home to ourselves. It's really a pleasure to have you on the show, Nat.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for creating the space that you are in the podcast world. You know, you're creating community and a place where people don't have to do the healing alone. So thank you so much.